Troy Jasmin from Computer Creations Northwest. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing? It's good to see you.
I hope I'm not blowing the mic out here.
Nah, you're fine. I'll just turn you down. You come through our microphones.
They don't let me have a microphone at any of the chamber events.
I know they don't. I know they don't.
Equipment's expensive, you know.
It just blows out, and then the next thing you know, you got to call. I see what happens, and you come in and you say, "I can fix all that."
Right.
Oh, job stability.
Right?
All right, 2018 is upon us,
Yes.
and we are already hearing words and news notes of infections and malwares and viruses and things like that. What do we need to know? Some of the quick tips that you can give us. I saw your video over the weekend. We shared it on our page about the security and the updated security for your wireless networks, especially as we get close to tax time and things like that.
Yeah, so a lot of people, they don't really think that, everybody thinks that big corporations are targets.
Right.
And 99% of the time, that's probably a correct scenario until it comes to tax season. Tax season is the chance for the quickest and fastest ability to get information off someone's computer without them really even knowing it, or you're going to start getting a lot more emails that are very close and associated to software that you use, TurboTax, Tax Cut, H&R Block. You're going to see things that people will get basically targeted emails that will say, hey, there was a breach possibly in our account. We need you to update your login information.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will do that. And then now they have access to all of your tax information if you've entered it already, your previous tax years, how much money you had. The best thing for a lot of these thieves is to get into those software or get the last 2 years, because when you're buying a home, they do verifications, not just what you have this year. What were your numbers last year to make sure you're not a scammer? And if you have all that information, you've got a lot of your information to get identified. So there are people that drive around using these sniffer programs or these programs that run on their computers or laptops in their vehicles that look for open wireless networks or wireless networks that have low encryption, out of the box older equipment. You really won't find the older encryption, which is called WEP or WEP.
Sure.
That older encryption only allowed you to do very specific letters and numbers up to, and I said it wrong in my video, but I meant 0 through 9 and then A through F, actually. And that's it. But it also, somebody created a tool to break those really easily. So if somebody comes across somebody or finds out maybe a prominent name in the community, and they go by and they check and see what their encryption is, they go, oh, they're running an older router in their house. It could be the router from your provider because you've never upgraded or they never offered you to upgrade in the last 5 years, and you're going, well, I don't want to pay $5 a month, so I'm going to keep what I got. It's working for me.
Sure.
But you don't realize that it's actually running old encryption. So they'll come by, they'll run it, they'll say, hey, I got in. Then most computers that are running older equipment, they haven't really gotten newer laptops or newer computers running 10 yet. Some people still haven't switched. So they're looking for all that. So Windows 7, Windows XP, it's still out there, and they allow them to basically just walk right onto your computer, and then they can look for keywords. Where do you have any tax software, Social Security information? They'll look for bank records. They'll just grab all that. You don't even know what's happening.
So does it show up on their computer? Are they looking at it kind of like as if they were sitting at your desk, looking at your desktop? Is it mirrored that way?
Not exactly. It is by folder. So basically, as long as most people don't change when a computer comes brand new out of the box, it has a work group.
Sure. And
that work group is just generic. It says work group.
That's
what
the
it's
name
called.
of it.
And some people will change it, thinking they're helping, which is true. But with Windows 7 and Windows XP, they were basically all set to basically almost an open public profile.
Oh, wow.
Unless you go in and tell it this is a private, this is a work, and then you have to say any sharing has to have a password. So they may get into your network, they may get to your computer and see it, and then they click on it, and they want to scan your network. They don't even have to see what's shared. If it's set to user or public, they can basically use their tools to even though the general person with a laptop right next to them says, well, I can't see you, this tool can do that. So things to do to fix that. So a couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago when I came here, I did a presentation with Kiwanis. I drove through the whole Shelton area, up on the hill, up to Wallace Nealon, drove all around using a little bit different program, but what it does is it indicates only, is there a wireless access point in this area? And it looks for strength, so it kind of makes these little bubbles, shows you the overlays for neighbors, stuff like that. Red means no encryption, yellow meant low encryption, green meant it was using the newest, which was WPA or WPA2. They were using new technology, it locked it down. So it didn't, the newest ones are much more difficult. So you're not really, as a home user, going to be targeted for those. But there are people that will drive through our little communities and look for that. So when I did this map, 3/4 of the map was red and yellow, and that included businesses downtown.
Oh my gosh.
And so a lot of them, it was because they were using older equipment, older modems, routers from providers that they weren't even aware. They were just typing in their code, It was just what they had.
I mean, most people think that they get an over the air or a downloadable while you're sleeping update to fix these things, but that's not the case.
No, because this is something you have to manually do.
Okay.
You have to put the encryption in. If your router has, most routers within the last 6-7 years, they're going to have both the old and the new, and then about 5 years ago, you're going to see them just basically there is no WEP anymore, and granted they are a little more expensive. I mean, instead of your $30 routers, you're going to want to spend a little bit more money to get the WPA2, to get the better encryption, to get the better protection. So things you can do is like I told a lot of people back then, was to manually go into maybe your kid next door do it, or your son, go into the router and make sure you're running WPA2. WPA is fine because that's the first one, but most of them had both. And so just move it up to the newest level of encryption. More devices are looking for that. Some devices won't even connect to WEP. They won't recognize it as because it's unsafe.
So other than just clicking your preference there, WEP, WPA2, things like that, is there more that an average level user would have to know? I mean,
not really.
Should we Google these things?
Yeah,
YouTube videos.
You can. And they're pretty straightforward. You can go onto YouTube and say, how do I change the encryption type of my router, and then put a comma and then name of your router. It's a Linksys blah blah blah. It's a Netgear blah blah blah. And it will literally show you the stats. But most of them are you log in to the router via the name or the IP, and it's on the bottom of almost all modern routers is there. If you've changed the password already for your router, that's also recommended when you get it. Even though there's one on the bottom, change the password for your router. You log in, you click on Wi-Fi, and then it says, what is your encryption type? And you just change the drop-down. If it was on WP and it's got WPA, it will ask you to make a new password. Now, the difference is the new passwords can be free passwords. You can use words, letters, names.
Oh, wow.
You can, but the recommendation is you want to have at least 8 characters or more. You want to not use something that's recognizable to you, but it could be something like Beehive. It had nothing to do with you, but you also want a capital letter in there somewhere. You want a number, and you want a special character. Those things will also help, because even if they are using some of the newer tools to break in, if they're really determined to break into you, those are things that are going to also help too. Now, after your router, you have your PC, and a lot of people are not using passwords on their computer. They just turn it on. It comes on because it's more convenient. If you had a password, that would also protect, because now that they're in, if you have a password, it automatically changes that free work group and says, hey, this is an encrypted work group now. So you have to have the password to see this stuff. So that creates another level. And again, same thing. Try not to use something super simple, but write it down so you know where it's at. But make sure your password is on your computer. The next thing is what we talked about in the video, which I was talking about. The biggest thing is tax season tax software. I've done it myself. I've almost fallen victim to making the big mistake too, where we've worked on our taxes. We're all done. We've already sent it off electronically. It's all encrypted. We're safe. Oh, we want to keep a copy of that. We downloaded it. We got too busy. We forgot to move it to our Dropbox. And then take it off our computer, so it's all encrypted online. And then we also forgot to move it to a thumb drive and encrypt that thumb drive. So when we moved it to the thumb drive later, in a rush, being a tech, I make mistakes myself. And you have to remember, most thumb drives are going to come with software that allows you to encrypt whatever you put onto it. And encrypt means just put a password so that you click on a folder or an item. It does all of it at one time. So you just have to drag your file over and it automatically encrypts it. Your $8 little USBs, they don't really do that. You want to get the SanDisks. They do have the software built into them. The Western Digitals, they have them built in. So encrypt anything you download off, because it's going to have all of your social security numbers. It's going to have your information for your your past history, your past numbers, your spouse's information. They may not go after you, but quietly they may go after your spouse's information because they look on the tax and go, "Hey, your spouse makes more money than I'm going to go after that."
We're just about out of time here. So I just got one question for you here. We talk a lot with the law enforcement, sheriffs, and police, and they say have your. This will take a little bit to get to, but follow me here. So when you go to your house and if a bad guy comes by, does a slow roll by your house, they look for places where they can hide, or brush or bushes that you can get in and nobody sees you. A sign that says you have security, whether or not the door is locked. Those are just some of the ways that you can quickly. How many tries before a hacker will move on? I mean, if they don't get in straight away, do they go to the next person knowing?
That's a great question.
Well,
somebody else is going to be wide open?
I want to say that there's no been official study of grabbing the hackers and saying, hey, but there have been actual interviews of hackers that have said that they'll try 3-4 times, and if they can't do it, they move on to the next location. Just for the simple fact that they're there to get not quality, quantity.
Sure.
Because they want to get as much as they can. Then they spend time figuring out what is going to be good to send out to the black web, what they can sell, what they can use themselves. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So some computers do have the ability. You can set it to like 10 times and it locks you. The downfall is you're going to have a backup account to get into that.
If you forget yourself.
Right, just like your phone, 10 times it'll wipe your data if you turn that feature on.
So the more layers that you have on the front end,
absolutely,
the odds of them going, this is a little tougher than I know the next person is likely super easy, so I'm out of here.
And the one last thing I will say is make sure you have your antivirus up to par right now. Make sure you're running your Windows updates, as painful as they are. Make sure you're running your malware updates. And last, make sure you install, either on any browser you're using, download and install an adware blocker, a pop-up, because during this time of year, they hack into other websites that are legit, and they'll pop up saying, here's a special for you, purchase it from me, and that's actually fake software.
Oh, wow.
So that'll protect against a lot of it, and they're getting into the systems that way. So help yourself.
Well, scare me when I'm surfing online now.
Oh, I know. I don't even want to surf anymore.
That's fine.
I want to encrypt everything.
Troy,
well, you're from California. You can surf.
Surf all day long. That's right. Troy Jasmin from Computer Creations Northwest. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.